Ever walked down the health food aisle and spotted a bag of tiny, bead-like grains labeled quinoa and wondered, what exactly is this stuff? Some call it a superfood. Others think it's just another trendy diet fad. But here's the truth. Quinoa is far from new. In fact, it's been around for thousands of years, long before smoothie bowls and Instagram food pics. So today we're going to dig into what exactly is quinoa, where it comes from, why it's become so popular, and even some surprising facts you probably didn't know. Let's get into it, right here, on History of Simple Things. First things first, quinoa is often mistaken for a grain, but technically, it isn't. It's actually a seed. More specifically, it comes from a flowering plant called Chenopodium quinoa, which is related to spinach and beets. That's right. Despite looking like rice or couscous, quinoa is more closely related to your salad greens than to wheat. Because it's cooked and eaten like a grain, it's called a pseudo-cereal. That just means it's grain-like in the way we use it. But botanically speaking, it's not part of the true cereal family like wheat, rice, or barley. Quinoa's story doesn't start in a modern health food store. It begins high in the Andes Mountains of South America. For over 5,000 years, civilizations like the Incas have been cultivating quinoa. They called it the mother grain and considered it sacred. Legend has it that the Inca emperor would plant the first quinoa seeds of the season using golden tools, a ceremonial act to honor its importance. This wasn't just for ritual, though. Quinoa was a survival food. Growing at altitudes over 12,000 feet, it thrived where other crops simply couldn't. And in those harsh, cold environments, quinoa provided essential nutrition to the people who lived there. If quinoa is so amazing, why did it take until the 21st century for most of the world to notice it? Well, part of the reason is geography. Quinoa was primarily grown in Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador, and transporting it globally wasn't practical for centuries. Another reason is colonial history. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 1500s, they suppressed many indigenous foods, including quinoa, in favor of European crops like wheat and barley. It wasn't until the late 20th century that agricultural scientists began studying quinoa's unique properties and promoting it worldwide. By the early 2000s, it was popping up in health-conscious communities in North America and Europe, and the rest is supermarket history. Quinoa's rise to fame isn't just about trendiness, it's genuinely nutrient-dense. For starters, it's a complete protein, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids our bodies can't make on their own. That's rare in plant-based foods. In fact, a single cup of cooked quinoa has around 8 grams of protein. It's also high in fiber, rich in minerals like magnesium, manganese, and phosphorus, and loaded with antioxidants. Oh, and it's naturally gluten-free, which makes it an ideal choice for people with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. No wonder it's been dubbed a superfood. When you go to buy quinoa, you'll usually see 3 main varieties: white, red, and black. White quinoa is the most common and has the mildest flavor. It's fluffy and soft when cooked, making it perfect for salads or as a rice substitute. Red quinoa has a nuttier taste and a firmer texture, so it holds up well in cold salads and grain bowls. Black quinoa is the earthiest in flavor and takes slightly longer to cook. Sometimes you'll also find tricolor blends that combine all 3, giving you a mix of flavors and textures in one pot. If you've ever cooked quinoa without rinsing it first, you may have noticed a bitter taste. That's because quinoa seeds are naturally coated with a substance called saponin. Saponins act as a protective shield for the plant, deterring pests and birds from eating the seeds. Luckily for us, saponins are harmless, but they can taste soapy or bitter. Most commercially sold quinoa is pre-rinsed, but it's still a good idea to give it a quick rinse under cold water before cooking. This simple step makes a big difference in flavor. Quinoa plants are surprisingly resilient. They can grow in poor soil, withstand drought, and tolerate both hot and cold temperatures. Farmers usually plant quinoa in early spring, and the plants grow to about 3 to 6 feet tall, producing seed heads full of tiny grains. Once the seeds mature, they're harvested, dried, and separated from the husks. Because quinoa grows in challenging environments, it's often farmed on steep mountain slopes, which makes harvesting labor-intensive. One reason it can be more expensive than other grains. Cooking quinoa is pretty simple. The basic ratio is 1 part quinoa to 2 parts water or broth. Bring it to a boil, reduce the heat, cover, and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Then, turn off the heat and let it sit for a few more minutes before fluffing it with a fork. You can use quinoa in salads, soups, breakfast bowls, or even as a base for stir-fries. Some people even bake with quinoa flour, turning it into bread, muffins, or pancakes. Here's something many people don't know. Quinoa leaves are also edible. In the Andes, the young leaves are eaten like spinach. They're tender, nutrient-rich, and a great addition to soups or stir-fries. There's also quinoa flour, quinoa flakes, and even quinoa pasta. These products make it easy to enjoy quinoa's benefits in different forms, especially for those avoiding gluten. So what exactly is quinoa? It's an ancient seed, cultivated for thousands of years, packed with nutrients, and versatile enough to fit into just about any meal. It's a food with deep cultural roots, a fascinating history, and a well-earned place in modern kitchens. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.